This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook, and I have the expert in digital marketing. This guy has started from the ground up. He is an author, speaker, of course, an entrepreneur, and his business is growing, and the businesses that work with him, more importantly, are growing. Carlos Gil, man, welcome to the Playbook.
What's happening, my man?
All right, everybody, this is an entrepreneur show, and you are so successful now, but you weren't born into money, you weren't born into success, so everybody wants to connect the dots forward. I like to connect the dots backwards with great entrepreneurs and speakers and authors like yourself. You wrote the book, The End of Marketing, which everybody should get a copy if they're interested at all in building a brand, frequency, or marketing. Where did you start? Because this stuff didn't exist when you got out of college.
No, it didn't. You know, what's crazy is that actually I didn't go to college at all. I dropped out of high school at 17 years old.
And what did your parents think when you dropped out of high school?
Man, so I come from an immigrant family. My parents came over from Cuba when they were really young. So I grew up in the United States. I was born in the United States. My parents grew up in the US. But my dad actually fought in the Army. And my dad wanted me to go into the Army upon graduating high school. And I moved around a little bit as I was a kid. And just to kind of set the stage, I'm an only child. And a lot of people that get to understand, meet me now through social media and see me speak on stages, they think I'm just this natural extrovert. And I think social media kind of helps me break out of that shell, so to speak. But growing up as a kid, I was always the shy kid whose parents would have to introduce him on the first day of school to everyone. And I lived in 3 different states, Florida, Montana, and Utah. And I went to 3 different high schools. And that for me was almost like a blessing and a curse, because as an adult now, I can easily fit into different scenarios, especially, spending time as an adolescent living in Utah, amongst the, heavy Mormon community there, living in Montana. But as a child, I really resented my parents for the moves that I made. And, sorry, Mom and Dad, love you. They're probably watching this. Oh my God, our son resented us. But, Dave, the fact remains that I made a decision at 17 that I was going to drop out of high school. And my parents were not supportive of that. They were very unhappy. And I went and got my GED, and I started selling shoes. And it was through selling shoes that I started developing some soft skills, some soft interpersonal skills.
You and I have that in common.
Is that right?
When I was in law school, I would wake up at 4 in the morning. So I'd sold Roadrunner Sports incoming shoe sales, right? Thorough socks, shoes, running shoes for Roadrunner Sports in San Diego, then go to the law job at 9 o'clock.
And
Great place to learn, man.
And didn't selling shoes teach you, though, about some critical skills, such as thinking quick on your feet, overcoming objections, upsell, cross-sell.
Yeah.
People try to back out of the deal at the cash register. And
my favorite was you got to buy 2 pairs of running shoes because the carbon has to recoil, so you can't run on your shoes every day. You need 2 pairs to alternate them. I would say stuff like that.
Yeah, for anyone watching this interview that's young and needs some experience, I actually recommend getting a job.
And I made good money.
In retail.
I actually made more money selling than I did at the law firm clerking. And I, went to a really good law school and had a really good clerk job that first year in law school.
I can't say that I made good money. I had to sell $1,000 worth of product.
Wow.
In order to make $50 commission.
Oh yeah, I was in a much better incoming sales job. Yeah.
But the whole.
But I was a lot older and seasoned, right? I'm in law school, so.
The whole point that I'm trying to make is that when I was doing this at 17, 18 years old, this was pre-social media.
Yeah.
There was AOL back then, which I attribute to being
AOL.
The godfather, the OG of social media. But there wasn't this thing about personal branding and creating connections online. Social media was just a gateway to meet people. And it was through selling shoes that I realized early on, look, being a high school dropout and working retail minimum wage really sucks. So I got married really young.
Yeah.
And it was kind of started becoming an adult at a very young age. Got married at 19, had my first child when I was 22. And throughout this, I was really lucky to get a job working for Citigroup in the financial services industry. And it was through just pure grit and hustle, improving myself. Took a part-time job, working 20 hours a week, dialing for dollars, converted that into a full-time job, got into Citi's management trainee program. So at a very young age, I was understanding what it was like to make money. And it's funny because I, like yourself, mentor now a lot of 17, 18, 19-year-old men and women that are kind of at this crossroads where they're either determining, do they want to start up a business? Do they want to go work for the man? Or do they want to go to school? And what I tell those I mentor is, look, in every one of those options, you're going to learn. My path was to go work a traditional job, and I made money, and I flipped that in the early 2000s to buying real estate and cars, and then guess what? I lost it all. I went bankrupt at a very young
in
age.
common.
I was laid off in the financial services industry due to the recession and lost the money that I'd made and lost the houses and lost the cars. But there's something that I gained was knowledge. And knowledge is priceless. And it's something that I think we take for granted until we get to the point that we can look back at our ages now and we have books and people think that we're successful. But the point I'm trying to make here is that I had to lose a lot at a very young age in order to get to this point where I'm at today at 36, where I feel like, I overcame some of those struggles and now I'm on the other side of it.
And how do you communicate that grind side? We're going to get into the marketing side in just a tiny bit, but I'm really interested because one of the challenges I have is that the foresight of young people especially, they don't get that grind. Like, we talk about it real flippantly. Oh, well, I worked a part-time job. You're probably working 2 jobs knowing you. You're working that job plus another job. And I want people to hear this because this is what it takes to be successful. The guys that have books and speak and are hired all over the world like you and I, it's because while everybody else was attached to an end, we were grinding 2 jobs, right? And then you entered the low-level employee and pushed to get in there because you have no education, really.
Right.
So now you're in the employee program, and then you probably were top of your class there because you had to prove yourself. First one in, last one to leave. Then you outsold everybody, and then you started buying the houses, the cars, and then the lessons came. How do you inspire kids to say, look, you got to learn before you earn, and you got to grind before they applaud you?
Such a
because they don't see that grind and they look at us going, they don't get that 2 job time. Like,
here's the thing, for as much as I love social media and through my book, Then to Marketing, and through my keynotes preach about the value that social media offers, social media can also be very destructive at the same time. Because what you're seeing through social media is an illusion of other people's wins. And you're not really seeing people's losses. Like, I'm going to give you an example. Like, this is the first time
that's why I illuminate my losses like you do.
This is the first time I actually ever talk about what I'm about to tell you. Every single morning when I wake up, I check my email. And you know what I see in my email? Rejection letters. Because I have an assistant that's out applying, and this is real life. I have an assistant that's out applying for me to speak at conferences.
You mean every single conference doesn't want you?
Yeah, well...
I know.
She's not applying at every single conference. My PR
guys over there going,
but
what, rejection letters? Dave gets accepted everywhere.
This is real life. Hold on. You might see me that last week I was in Dallas doing a keynote to thousands of people and I'm signing all these books and life looks great. But every single morning I wake up to a rejection letter. Think about that for a moment.
Yeah, I love the ego part of, because I'm in the same position as you, speaking around the world, thousands of people, but then you come home and it's like, I've never heard of him. Right? Who is he? No, he's not right for this. He's not. And so it is, because you have a certain following. There's 4.2 billion people. This is where we're getting the digital marketing. You've got to have a strength of a signal, spectrum of that signal, clarity of your message. It's not going to go to everyone.
It's not.
Like, I love, my favorite reality check is my mentor, one of my best friends, just the dude is Gary Vee. But I love when I run into someone, I'm like, oh, they say, well, who's your mentor? I'm like, well, in the digital side of things, it's Gary. He's the one that taught me how to do this content game. And they're like, Gary? I'm like, yeah, you know Gary Vee. Gary Vee? No, Gary Vaynerchuk. Right? And I love when that happens because it reminds me that everybody's at know everyone. I went to Trevor Noah last weekend. AG hooked me up at Staples. I go to Trevor Noah. I talk to my old good friends who are in PR, and they're like, who's Trevor Noah? It really is becoming segmented, which is an opportunity, though.
Here's the thing, Dave. I want anyone that watches this interview, because I think you and I here are really opening up to our vulnerabilities. I want anyone watching this video to realize that we are all human. At the end of the day, like, yes, people see David Meltzer in social media and Carlos Gil and Gary Vee and all these different celebrities that we mix and mingle with. But I'll tell you, just from experience of hanging out with these celebrities behind the scenes, they're regular people. That they have feelings and emotions and they go through their highs and lows. So I think it's really important that youth especially realize that not everything that you see on social media is rainbows and kittens. It's behind the scenes, there's a lot that's happening. And what's really important is knowing how to manage through adversity. How to manage through the losses. Do I like waking up in the morning and seeing that conference doesn't want me to speak? No. But I actually use that as fuel to my fire, because by this time next year, I want them to know who I am. And you know what? Here's like a growth hack. When someone turns me down, I send them a copy of my book.
Heck yeah.
I send them a copy. I say, hey, you know what? Thank you for the opportunity. What's your address? I'm going to send you a copy of my new book, and I'd love to stay in touch.
Absolutely. So now let's talk about the hack side of stuff. You know, you are a social media marketing expert for companies. You help grow companies and leagues and teams and players. You're going to the winter meetings right now to go speak at their business summit as well. And on how digital marketing is affecting and can be utilized for monetary gain. Give us some of the hacks, right? I do a lot of executive coaching, a little bit in this area, but this is not my core competency. That's why I have you on here. What are some of the hacks that I can use? I'm a personal brand. 3 years ago, no one ever knew me except for I was Leigh Steinberg's guy or Warren Moon's partner. That's all. They didn't know my name. Now they know my name more than Leigh Steinberg or Warren Moon, right? But I want to know on the digital marketing side, because that's just good content. I don't know how to advertise on LinkedIn. I don't know how to advertise truly on Instagram. I'm throwing, excuse my language, I'm throwing crap at the wall. And some sticks, some doesn't. Is that the only way to do it, or are there some hacks you can give us?
Yes and no. So like, here's what I learned from the time that I ran social media at LinkedIn.
Small job, by the way.
These social networks are digital advertising platforms. To you and I, they're disguised as social networks.
Right.
But really the way that they operate is digital advertising networks. And the way...
Same way Google works, right? It looks like a search engine, but it's just a marketing platform.
Yeah, exactly. The way that YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter make their money is serving ads. So a company like Facebook last year pulled in somewhere around $50 billion. $49 billion of that was in ad revenue. Mm-hmm. The biggest mistake that people make using social media, regardless of the platform, is that they're using these social networks as transaction platforms. Meaning, there's a constant transaction that they're looking to get out of it. Meaning, right. I post content, I post a tweet, I'm wanting Dave to now click out of Twitter and go back to my website and buy a book, read a blog,
or in a funnel,
that's the mistake
or whatever.
Right there. And that's the funnel. I agree. That's the mistake right there. Like, critical number one mistake that people
me and Gary
make.
don't do that. That's the first thing Gary taught me. Don't sell anything.
So you need to keep people on the platform itself. And to your point, yes, my mantra is engage more, sell less. Spend more time engaging people within the network where they're consuming your content. And
put out good content.
And put out good content,
like
yes.
What I like about you, Carlos, like, you know, knowing who you were and we have common friends, is I gravitate to people that just have good content. Like, I don't even mind being sold to if you have good content. Like, there's some guys that are my friends, and they sell on stage, they sell on the internet, they have money to advertise, but at least their ideas are good. What bothers me is, you know, my ex-babysitter who makes millions of dollars a year singing with her family, you know, on TikTok. You know, because I can't imagine that lasting. You know, there has to be some good content, then there has to be the engagement. And the money will follow. People will want you to do stuff.
100%. I think there's a lot of folks that get into this game of internet marketing because they see a Gary Vee, a Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, and they think, wow, this looks really, really easy. What people don't realize is that sitting in this room right now is a team of people behind these cameras.
Right.
Right? Like, you have to first do some of the grunt work yourself, write, produce content, do stories, go on Snapchat, and get people to know who the hell that you are in order for you to start building a tribe. And I would say, going back to growth hacks, instead of focusing on growing a community, tap into a community that already exists. A platform like Instagram already has 1 billion daily active users, 1 billion people. The reality is that you're not going to cast a wide net on all of these people, but who are the people that you're going after? In my case, it's brand marketing executives. So I need to find ways to get my content in front of people that are going to conferences for brand marketing. They're talking about brand marketing. That is what they're looking to consume. So if you look at my content by design, what does it do? It teaches you. It teaches you how to do your job better. And if you learn 1 or 2 little nuggets to do your job better, now you're probably going to be inclined to follow me. And once you follow me, that's the funnel. That's when the funnel really begins.
Yeah. I use my funnel as a personal funnel, not an AI funnel. Right, I'm engaged with you personally if you attract yourself to me through the natural content, organic content. Let me switch gears real quick because I can't let this pass without what everybody asked me about, and I have no clue. And I'm strong on LinkedIn. I'm strong, I think, on LinkedIn because of who I am and the content that I provide. I have no clue, nor can I find any human being on earth that knows how to advertise on LinkedIn. It's expensive, but do you know anyone that advertises on LinkedIn, or what would you do to advertise?
So companies that I worked at, we would spend, well in the 6 figures a month advertising on LinkedIn. So you're right.
Yeah.
It is more expensive, but I'll tell you, like, the growth hack to LinkedIn in itself is using LinkedIn as a Rolodex to identify who it is that you're trying to sell to, but never even engage on LinkedIn. Let's analyze that for a second.
Just post and attract.
I run a digital marketing agency. I know that the individuals that cut checks for Gil Media are chief marketing officers. So LinkedIn gives me a database where I can see who's the chief marketing officer at these different companies, every Fortune 500 company under the sun. And then it's what I call social stalking, and I write about this in the marketing. Social stalking really is seeing where do these individuals have a presence outside of LinkedIn, because every executive that I know is being hit up on LinkedIn every single
including
day.
Us.
Right? Including us too. Right? I get 4, 5, 6 vendors a day hitting me up, opportunities to collaborate, right? And the reality is that most executives have very limited time. And I'll tell you what they're using social media wise is they're using Instagram. They're using Instagram to consume content from their kids. They're using Instagram to see what their other C-suite executive friends are posting on social media. I hang out with CEOs and CMOs, and I look over their shoulder in the Uber, and I see they're on Instagram looking at boats. They're looking at cars, right? Because that's their disconnect from what they do on a daily basis. So what I'm trying to say, Dave, is you can either go down the path of hitting executives up on every single social network that they're already being approached, or you can be tactical and see where do they have a presence that I can start to organically build a relationship with them.
And reading that book, The End of Marketing, right? You talk about the 3 things that you're discussing now, which is you should know the strength of your signal for where your brand is at right now. You're now talking about the spectrum of your signal, right? Too many people try to go outside of their spectrum, and it's just a waste of time, money, and emotion and content. And then finally, you have such a clear message. Right, that's where you get hired for the speaking, and where my main concentration and focus is just to be real clear on my message, so people know Dave is a technology guy, he's a sports person, he's an executive coach, and he is in a happiness mission. Right, those are my expertise. Right, if you have a mental illness and a happiness problem, I can create conscious, subconscious, and unconscious continuum with a pragmatic business tool. Whatever, these are clear. Last question though, you have really created the market, and you have consulted in the market, you've written books and speak on the market. Where are we going? There's TikTok, there's all these new things. What should I be looking for, others like me that are branding themselves, whether it's a big company with Fortune 500 companies that you work with, athletes, leagues, teams, or just a personal entrepreneur brand like Gary, me, Ty, or whoever else you work with? What should we be looking for the future?
Something to unpack from there first and foremost is you don't need to chase every new shiny object. With all due respect to Gary and other thought leaders out there that are really high on the TikTok train right now, if you're gonna jump off of, let's say, Instagram, or you're gonna do it in parallel with TikTok, realize that now you're investing time on a new social network.
And you haven't got to the 4.2 billion.
And you still haven't seen critical mass on an Instagram or on a Twitter.
Thank you. 9 million followers. Right? And I believe in ambassadors. So I don't know how many people, if you have 9 million followers, are ambassadors of yours, people that are actually engaged and would tell somebody else to follow you. But you have 1 billion something on Instagram. Do the math. Aren't you, if you're good at that, aren't you better sticking to it?
So my thing, right, is how do I get in front of the people that cut checks? And it's not going to be on TikTok. It's not going to be on Snapchat. It's probably going to be, again, using a combination of LinkedIn along with Twitter or Instagram. But here's like going back to where things going.
Yeah.
We're starting to go more into privatization of media. Relationships, right? What's great about social media is that it helps us build relationships, but relationships don't live exclusively on social media. So my recommendation is to capture data, such as phone numbers and email addresses. I think email marketing is going to make a comeback here in the next year, and text message marketing. So I use Superphone, which is Ryan Leslie's platform.
Good friend of mine as well. See him in New York this week.
Ever since I interviewed Ryan a year ago for Real Talk, I started using Superphone. And what I do is at every single conference that I go to, first of all, the first slide that you see with like my social media handles is my Superphone number.
Yeah.
And I tell the audience, I'm about to give you a lot of information. I'm not going to have time for Q&A at the very end. Here's my phone number. text me,
And
call me your
community is
questions.
the other one,
So
right?
what's happening is I'm
Superphone and
capturing all that data through Superphone. But when I go to a conference and people give me their business cards, what am I doing? I'm taking that data and I'm inputting it in my Superphone. I'm going to MailChimp. I'm inputting it in my CRM. So now I actually can reach out to you outside of social media. So again, kind of bold prediction. What is old is new again.
I agree with that. I think that everything comes into a ecosystem that will all complement one another. But in the end, I think it actually ends with face-to-face interaction for that check to be written. Well, you have got a lot to go back and watch on this one. There's a lot to unravel, a lot to learn. This is the stuff that people really want to know. And I know we get some great celebrities and Hall of Famers on the Playbook. This is the stuff that I think we need more of, and we need more people like Carlos Gil leading the way, teaching people, inspiring people, educating them. I'm gonna grab the book because we do get this Reach TV side of it, the end of marketing. Make sure you pick this up. This is one of the most important marketing books that you're gonna read because it actually talks about monetizing your brand or your company's brand or your favorite celebrities, teams, or organizations' brands. If you are not calling this guy, you're making a big mistake. This is Dave Meltzer with Carlos Gil, Entrepreneurs, The Playbook.